Hello, and welcome to the Tiny Home interview panel. I'm Lisa, a proud enthusiast of the tiny home movement. I'm a businesswoman and a community leader. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the fascinating world of tiny homes. We're going to talk about investment. We're going to talk about building. We're going to talk about licensing. And we're going to talk about the lifestyle itself. Tatiana, why are tiny homes a good investment opportunity right now?
Well, tiny homes a very cost-efficient type of house, and either you rent or you buy, you don't need so much initial investment, which appeal to different demographics, from younger generation who just out of college and they don't have much money, they looking for the first house, to the retirees who are about to retire and they just want to downsize. And also is appealing to many popular tourist areas where people just want to rent for short-term rentals. And I believe it's easy to rent, easy to sell, easy to own, low maintenance and low repairs. So I think it's great.
Great. How do you decide which tiny homes to invest in and which builders to work with?
Well, I would probably go by location. This is just rule for every real estate investor. You pick the popular area. If you targeting students, it has to be next to university. Or if you're targeting tourists, so you look something for near the popular tourist location, like Disneyland or something. And if I see the good design, the house which look good and appealing to different people, so I would probably go and ask for the builder who built it, because if house look good and it's gonna be easier to sell, easier to rent, and it's gonna be always keep value. And of course, I need the builder who provides some kind of warranty, or I would go by reputation, because if the roof is leaking and the builder doesn't answer the call, so it's no good.
Marlon, you are our builder on the panel. What inspired you to begin, building tiny homes?
Well, Lisa, about 3 years ago, I noticed a lot of people were struggling financially due to inflation to provide the basic necessities for their families. So I decided that I wanted to be a part of the solution to a problem.
You and I, both live here in Las Vegas, and we see a lot of that where people need affordable housing. So that's great. What is the creative process you go through as a builder to look at building a tiny home?
Lisa, you want to start with the land and figuring out a location of where you want to put it, access to that area, figuring out easements running through that property. You want to get a survey that identify the boundaries of the property, the topo, different changes in elevation. Then you want to familiarize yourself with the building codes and meet with the local building department to discuss the zoning. And you want to hire you a designer to design you a tiny home, or a manufacturer or pre-built.
Okay, great. Now, I think I've heard that you are working on a very creative project right now, tiny home. Can you kind of describe that to us a little bit?
Yes, Lisa. I was working with the owner, and the designer actually incorporated the angles of the lot with the tiny home. So instead of it being 90-degree angles, they were more like 75-degree angles, so sharp angles. And then they designed the furniture to utilize all of the space. I think it was a really neat design.
Lindsay, you are a legal expert when it comes to tiny homes, and you understand all of the regulations and the legal side of it. What are some of the challenges people should know about when they're looking at placing a tiny home on a piece of land?
Well, I started with the 3 pillars of going tiny: the land, the build, and the funding. And it really barrels down to the land dictates the plan, because it really starts with the zoning. I always like to do this. The zoning is everything that has to do with the land, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And the building has everything to do with how you build it, what building standard. These two have to talk, unless you want to go under the radar. And that creates a whole host of other challenges. So for most people that I've always talked with, they want to make sure they're, legal and everything's great. So really making sure where your property is and talking to your local land planning, that's their job to work with you.
Okay, great. Can you give us some of the maybe top 3 or the key challenges that people face with the zoning and the regulations, within their community? What are some of the common things that they may face?
Well, I feel so many people excited by this movement. We've watched it on TV, on YouTube channels, on social media. And so the excitement's there, but some of the realities around what's allowed and not allowed on the land kind of confuse people. They're like, I didn't know that wasn't allowed. And that's the biggest part for people that want to develop tiny home communities and villages, to understand that there was this thing called zoning, which used to be redlining long, long ago, that then turned into zoning. We've got a lot of work to do. In my county, in Mendocino County, I'm proud to say that we actually changed the zoning law to allow a movable tiny home as a primary dwelling and an accessory dwelling unit. So that took about 2 years, and we've got to speed up the process, and we've got actually the silver bullet, another surprise, coming in 2027 when plans change for the International Residential Code. For someone to be able to choose a small residential unit that could either be on wheels or on foundation is going to be a game changer.
Lindsay, when you talked about your county that's very friendly. When you look at across the country, where are there more friendly states or cities or states? Where does it seem to be more friendly, and maybe perhaps where we need more work?
We've got a broad country and we've got zoning laws all over the country. However, there are some areas where they're unrestricted. Areas like in Texas, where just outside of maybe Austin, Texas, you've got counties that allow you to do much of anything. So really checking again with your local planning. I know that it kind of becomes the ongoing thing that we constantly hear from people. Do it. They're literally paid. They have planning desks. You can call them, you can go into their office and really find out your locations. For people that are really casting a broad net as to where they want to place their home, be sure to do your research by going into the offices, picking up the phone and saying, I'm looking at this property. Maybe you're looking at it online, maybe it's for sale. Call the planning department. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have bought the property only to find out they weren't allowed to do that. So again, check with your local area or the area where the land is located. And if you don't know, call the planning department, and if it's the wrong one, they'll guide you to another place.
Great. What are some of the biggest challenges people are going to face when they're talking about the zoning regulations with a tiny home? You have all this mountain of regulations. What are some of the biggest challenges you think they'll have?
There is an existing home on the property. You can put a tiny home, but you're also limited to a certain space, certain square footage. And it's a lot of times in some jurisdictions, it's based on the size of the house. So a lot of, and there's a limit to where you have to do the other part of the testing, material testing, soils reports. That's if you get beyond 650 square feet. Okay. Tiny homes are usually between, you want to stay around 600, and to custom ones, you can limit it to 1,000 in some jurisdictions.
How in the world do you stay updated on all the different zoning codes and regulations? Because you are, our go-to guy. How do you stay updated on all those?
I'm an avid reader, only of technical stuff, but you have to be very knowledgeable with the jurisdictions because they're changing requirements, they're changing the standards. I do a lot of design of tiny structures, and so you learn that every jurisdiction, even in the same city, is different. So you have to be on top of understanding what those requirements are. They use basically the same book, but it's different from each area in the country.
Dwayne, what are you looking for when we, for the trade show and the expo? What are you most excited about?
Looking for the thinking outside the box, that people are coming up with their own unique way for the tiny homes that expresses their personality, that they're showing someone that, hey, this is how I think this would be a nice looking home. This could be an energy efficient home, but it's also warm. I think those are the best parts where you see not the same thing over and over again. You see everyone has their own expression of what a tiny home is.
That's
think
great.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. Marlon, you are a builder, so what are you hoping that the builders that hopefully will be coming to Las Vegas in September 2025, what are you hoping that they see and they experience?
Well, Lisa, I'm looking to educate the builders on changing the paradigm on what's out there and talking to them about the other resources that we have out there and the different building strategies that I think that's important that they should know.
We're thrilled to bring all this to you with the Vegas Tiny Home Expo happening September 2025, so mark your calendars. Until then, keep dreaming big.